2, 1.
Welcome to Made for More Living.
One small step for man.
With Johnny Jennings.
Kick the tires and light the fires, Big Daddy.
The fastest and most exciting hour of news, events, and real estate in Northern California.
And this is a fact that was proved.
Powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
Does everybody know what time it is?
Get ready. Here we go.
Matt, have you noticed the increasing trends for like multi-generational living in homes? Like you're driving down the road?
Oh, absolutely. Especially with the price of homes these days.
Yeah.
I think people are looking for ways to have like a multi-generational dwelling, more than just like a mother-in-law's quarters, right? Where you have an extra bedroom downstairs and she has her own bathroom. It's like she has her own suite. I've actually thought about it myself of putting something else on the property.
So your mother-in-law can live there?
Right, exactly. Or I could just have a space of my own, watch whatever I want, eat whatever I want to eat, right?
Yeah.
Have a break from the family every once in a while. But I'm curious what exactly an ADU, that's what it's called, right? An ADU,
you
is.
got it. Yeah.
Because obviously I see the sheds in the parking lot at the Home Depot and I'm thinking, is that an ADU? What exactly is that?
Yeah, that's exactly why we have Dom Montes on the show. He's with RiseCon. Thanks for being on the show, Dom.
Thank you for having me.
So, Dom, what is the question? So, what is an ADU? How would you define that?
Those are good questions, and that's something that's really popular at the moment. An ADU stands for Accessory Dwelling Units.
Okay.
Accessory Dwelling Unit.
Yeah, they're mainly another house on your property. They start off at roughly about 500 square feet, and they go as high as 1,100 square feet.
Is that regulated by something, or like 5 to 11?
Yes, you have to be under 1,200 square feet. So we could go up to 1,199 in the backyard, as long as you have the space.
And is that, so we're talking like regionally here in the Sacramento region, is it based off county, or what are those limits based on?
It's based off the state.
Oh, the state.
State laws, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So anywhere in California, it's 5 to 1199.
Correct. We can make one as small as 280 square feet, but that's more of a studio, that open studio with the bathrooms. Most ADUs have a full-on kitchen, a walk-in bathroom, a laundry room, living room, a small dining room.
It's a standalone unit.
Correct. And it's a house. A lot of people are calling them small houses or flats or granny, but it's an actual house. They're 9-foot ceilings. It's a full-on.
Are they separately metered, or do they share the meter with the main house?
They are separately metered, so you could rent it out. So that's one of the main things that people are doing nowadays, is they're trying to get rental income and or putting their kids in there or in-laws.
Yeah.
Because of the housing pricing. It's so expensive.
Got it. And so,
do you need an expansive property like in Rio Linda or Loomis, or can you put one in a residential suburban backyard?
You can, as long as we have enough space to build it out.
There's no regulations or requirements of how
are.
much space you need to have?
Oh, well, you have to have enough. The setbacks from the fence and your property line have to be a minimum of 5 feet.
Okay.
Right. There's some exceptions that they do that you can do less than 5 feet. You can go up to 3.5 feet, but it gets a little pricier because we have to build firewalls.
Yep.
Interesting.
I remember that.
Yeah.
So why has this become so popular?
Affordability.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. So, for example, when my in-laws come to town, they will actually they'll either stay in a hotel or they will stay in an Airbnb. But that Airbnb is an ADU on somebody's property, and so for them it's an affordable option to compared to renting a hotel or staying in a hotel. For the landlord, it's an extra way to make income and help offset their monthly expenses, whether it's their mortgage or whatever else they have going on. Yeah. And so what we're seeing, though, too, is a lot of different benefits to the ADU. So rather than put, grandma into a nursing home,
correct.
They can live on the property.
That's a great idea.
And so now imagine, like, let's say, I would never do this. So, Robin, Nana, if you're listening, you're not moving in. But let's say, she wanted to do that, and we wanted her to do that. Then my mother-in-law could technically live on the property, help subsidize the monthly mortgage, and now there's built-in childcare for the kids as well.
There you go.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of benefits, and it's beneficial to her. She gets to hang out with her grandkids, and she's got extra support, and
she has her own house. It's like a full-on space. Yeah, she's got her own kitchen, her laundry room. She's got her own bathroom, bedroom, dining room. It's
pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Is there a bigger picture, though, of what's happening in our society of why this is becoming more and more popular? What's going on in our culture and
What do you
our
think, Don?
society?
I would say just with the same thing you see right now with traffic, right? When I moved to the area here from the Bay Area back in 2011, I loved driving down 65. It was such a peaceful drive for me.
Yeah.
But now everybody hates it.
Yeah.
It's so jam-packed. It's just our population's getting over, what do you call it? Just,
Overrun?
It's just too
Yeah.
much. So
Yeah.
people can't afford, the prices are going up, they can't afford the houses, so where are you going to stick all these people? So now investors are being smart, right? They're like, well, I'm already renting this property, why not get double the rent? I'll just build an ADU.
Yep.
It also increases my property value for resale,
Yep.
right? Now you have 2 rental properties on that.
And so to answer your question as well, Matt, the state has actually made it easier for people to put these ADUs down.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's another reason why you're seeing them spring up more. Because of that, there's a housing shortage. Like even though interest rates are incredibly high, on average when I walk into a person's home, so I'll typically do somewhere around 10 listing appointments a week, and I'll walk into somebody's home, and I would say 7 out of the 10 times, there's less than 2 months of inventory in that zip code. And so anything under 2 months is considered a seller's market in our area. And so even though interest rates are still crazy high, even though prices are still high, there's still a need for more affordable housing. And ADUs are often a solution to that.
And these are rentals, though, right?
Rentals, or you don't have to rent it out.
You don't have to rent it out.
Right.
Like right now, you mentioned you want a private area, right? So I would build you an ADU, probably for you itself, probably a 500 square foot ADU, and it's a house. It's a 500 square
Right.
foot home, but you have your own private area. You have your own kitchen, your own bathroom, a bedroom, or if you want it to be an office or a cigar lounge, like
Yeah,
whatever you
buddy.
want.
Here we
We're
go.
gonna create as they say, a man cave, but it's a full on house.
We all know what's going to happen. My
What?
wife's going to move all her crafting stuff in there, and
Yep.
it's going to become her space.
Exactly. That's how
we know
it works.
That's what happens. When I got married, I basically handed the keys over to my wife and said, "This is your house now."
You're a smart man.
There you go.
You're a smart man.
But you're seeing this trend, but a lot of people are asking, like, what are the costs now? I'm like, what can I expect to pay if I want to put an ADU on my property? So what are your averages?
The rough, it just depends on the finishes, right? The rough costs are anywhere from $280 a square foot to about $300 a square foot. And that's just a basic home. So if you want to build something for like 500 square feet, depending on the finishes, you multiply that times 280.
So we'll do 280 times 500, 140 grand.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's fully completed. And that includes permits, engineering fees, city fees.
And you guys get priority, right? Because you...
Yes, ADUs always get priority. So if I wanted to build a 3,000 square foot home, like in Loomis per se, I've got there's 2 of them in the pipeline for that. They're probably 6 months out. But
Why is
ADUs,
that? Why do ADUs get priority?
Because they're a lot faster to build. We could typically get an ADU finished and turnkey within 4 months. Because we're not bothering anybody, right? We're just going and building a house in the back. Nobody's getting, displaced. We're not taking anybody out of their home. So we just go and work and knock it out. And the city wants that because of the housing crisis. They want us to do it as fast as possible. So they're doing all they can to make us a priority so that they go through. A lot of the drawings we have on our website are already pre-approved.
Yep.
So we already know. Once I go to all the cities, and the city already, every city knows us. Lincoln, Roseville, Rockland, Loomis, Granite Bay. We've been doing them in this area for so long that they know us. So when we walk in with a pre-approved plan, they just checked, oh yeah, we already approved 4 of these, and they'll get it done in 2 weeks.
Johnny, how does it affect the value of the home, the primary home? Does it depreciate or does it?
It would
How does it
improve it.
affect
It would
it?
improve it. It would improve it. The hard thing, from a real estate agent's perspective, because this is still a newer phenomenon, is finding the comps, and so it would be based off the comps. So what do the comps show? Hey, this house has an ADU, and so I'm looking all the time. Like I love the fact that this is a new trend. So I'm always looking for homes that have ADUs, but they're increasingly common, but they're still rare. Like it's still hard to find. So does it increase the value of your home? Absolutely. How much? It depends. Depends on the lot. It depends on the layout. Like, are they walking down the driveway past your garage, or do they have their own separate entrance? Is there an alley? Maybe they can just access through the alley. You know, it just really depends on the situation. But does it improve the value? Yes. Yeah, and it also depends on how much you can rent it out for too.
Right.
You know, and what's great too is there are like our lender, JJ Mack's team. We were just on a call this morning, and they actually provide funding for ADUs. So they will actually loan. So you can, let's say you bought the house and you have this massive backyard, and you're like, man, I'd really like to put an ADU back there. They will actually provide funding so you can put the ADU back there.
Based on what you could rent it out for, huh?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like a precursor to what you're about to get in 4 months from now in rental. So they'll lend it upon that, right?
Correct.
Based on that.
And they'll actually do that when you're purchasing the home too. So let's say you're purchasing the home, it has this big backyard, and you're like, hey, I would like to put an ADU back there. You have 12 months to have that ADU constructed, so just call up Dom's team at RiseCon. They'll have it done in 4 months, and then boom, you're compliant. But they will actually provide a loan based off what the projected rent would be once you have the ADU in the back. So not only is there a growing trend with builders and with the state, but also with like fantastic lenders like the JJ Mack team who provide that flexibility for people looking to purchase a home.
Yeah, it wasn't available a year ago.
Yeah.
What they're doing right now.
Yeah.
JJ Mack's team, it wasn't available a year ago. So the state is really, really pushing to help all these homeowners to get these done.
And it shows like the credibility of like increasing the value. And so a lender's not going to lend money on something that they're going to lose. Like that's risky. So they're seeing this as a safe investment, a safe vehicle for their money. So that also speaks to how profitable and how secure your money would be in if you decided to go down the ADU route with RiseCon.
That's very true.
Yeah. And so, but that's not all you guys do, right?
No, actually, we are a full-service general contracting team. We do full home remodels. We also build commercial buildings and restaurants. We just finished three in the last year or so. They're all local. There's 2 in Lincoln and 1 in Loomis. And we also do flips. We help people that like to do investments, and we flip houses for people.
So what I really enjoyed about your company is you actually have architects on staff, right?
An architect and an engineer, and we have a full in-house counsel. We have an attorney. We have a tax accountant. We have financial advisors. Like we have our own call center. I mean, we're definitely very well prepared.
You're more than the regular contractor that shows up in a beat-up truck and, and a can of Copenhagen.
Yeah, right.
And we're going to get more into that right after the break.
Hey, so listen to this. Kathleen and Phil wanted to sell their home in Folsom and retire out of state. Johnny and his Made for More team were able to not only sell their home in 6 days, but also earn them a record price for that neighborhood. That's what happens when you work with the best. They sell homes 27% faster than other homes on the market and for, on average, a 3% higher purchase price. Expect more, get more with Johnny Jennings and the Tom Daves team with Made for More Realty, brokered by EXP. Just Google Made for More Realty today and get more for your home. License number 581837.
This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings, powered by EXP Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
Matt, what is it that you like, your mental image, what do you think of when you think of a general contractor?
A general contractor. How would you define a general contractor?
Somebody that's like overseeing a project, like a remodel at your house or a flip.
A guy with a hard hat and a pencil and the blueprints standing out at the sidewalk looking over his masterpiece.
Well, you're certainly kinder than I am.
But also him getting frustrated at his crew because they're not moving fast enough, and him on his phone trying to call 12 other projects that he's also managing, driving from site to site. Did you ever see the movie Multiplicity with Michael Keaton? He was a general contractor, and it was like he'd show up to one project and it was all wrong, and they had mistakenly done the driveway of the neighbor instead of the house.
There you
they were
go.
supposed to be
Winning.
doing. And he's being called by another homeowner because he's supposed to be on another project, and all the schedule is changing. So just a person that's overwhelmed and very stressed out.
When I think of it, I think of a beat up blue Ford F-250 with
Sure.
a rack with some 2x4s.
Exactly.
And
Rusted.
He's got one tire up on the curb, and he's getting out, and he's pulling this can of Copenhagen out of his pocket and putting some shoe in his mouth and yelling at some people. That's what I envision. But that's not what you guys are, right, Dom?
No.
So Don, you're a general contractor.
That's correct. Yeah.
How did you get into this? Was when you were in high school, you were taking the aptitude test, and it said, "Hey, you need to become a general contractor."
Yeah, they said you're too smart for school. Go
Right,
build
is that what
houses.
it is?
Go build houses.
Here's a
No,
hammer.
I know this is radio, but it is also recorded visually. But for those of you who are listening to it, Dom's a handsome man. Like this guy, he's a movie star. He's been on HGTV.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
There you
We
go.
had 13 episodes. We had a full season. They followed me around doing all the flips.
Based on his looks, not based on his ability.
that's all it
to
was.
put a home together.
That's funny. I learned from, I grew up in Texas. I was born and raised in Texas, and my parents are from San Francisco. So every summer we'd come up, and I started doing construction. I was 12 years old. So every summer I'd be up here for 3 months, and my grandfather was a really hardworking man. He said, absolutely, you're not up here for fun. You're going to come work.
Love
so I remember
that.
picking up nails and
There you
straightening
go.
out the old nails so that they could reuse them. Like back in the days, they were like
Yeah.
real nails. So I had to straighten them out. And I learned. I mean, when I was 16, I was building 3-story houses on the mountainsides of San Francisco. Like I was up on the 3rd story, and
That's awesome.
it was fantastic. So
You've been doing this your whole life
just
since
about
you were a kid.
Yeah. And we've had our ups and downs, but when I started the company back in 2004, this was a full-time job. And fortunately, you learn throughout the years of what not to do. And for the past 8 years, it's been going fantastic. That's why I have such a strong team behind me, because I couldn't do it all myself.
Yeah.
So now that's why we have 0 complaints from any clients for the past 2 decades. We just changed the dynamic of what a general contractor is.
So I'm curious, now that you own the company, right? Are you still out on the job sites? Are you still doing the day-to-day operations of a general contractor, or are you kind of do more of the office work now?
It's a lot less. My legal department tells me to stop wasting time with that, but I actually enjoy meeting the homeowners. Like I want them to know that somebody is out there looking out for them. It's not just pointing fingers and you get a bunch of random people. All the people we use are basically our employees. They've been working together for the past 7 years. I go out. I mean, my truck, as nice as it is, I have a little over 360,000 miles on it.
Nice.
Wow.
And I like the face-to-face with the homeowners so that they can feel secure that they're in good hands.
So oftentimes people think, hey, I want to start a project, and then it ends up being bigger or takes longer than expected. Like what would be some advice to like a homeowner who was looking to maybe remodel their kitchen or do like a background landscape or remodel a bathroom? Because, I mean, kitchens are horrible. If you're living in the home, there's only one kitchen. Typically, there's maybe 2 bathrooms, so you can kind of alternate. But there's only one kitchen. How can they screen, or how, aside from just calling you directly, how can they screen a contractor to make sure that the prices aren't going to go up and that the work's going to get done in a timely fashion?
Honestly, it's just read through the contract properly, and then have a good feel with your contractor, right? You got to feel them out. It's like when you meet somebody, you got to feel them out. Do I feel comfortable? Is he well spoken? Does he understand what he's doing? Is he really insightful? And it all comes down to the contract, right? Read what he is proposing that it's going to cost, and just ask questions. Ask as many questions until you're 100% sure. And in more general, just know what you want. Right.
Okay.
Don't be
wishy-washy.
Don't have us demo your kitchen and be like, oh, I think I changed my mind. I'd like to have a pantry over here, because then you slow everything down, right? And then when you start changing things, that's when change orders start. You're allowed to, of course, but don't get upset when it's like 2 days more work.
Yeah. So if you want it done fast, have a plan, stick to the plan.
Correct.
And make sure you understand the contract.
It's the same thing with the ADUs, right? Once you've picked up the architectural plans, we have all the finishes, what tile you're going to want, what floor you're going to want, and we just go at it. That's how we can get them done in less than 4 months. But if halfway through you're like, I think I decide, like you were saying, I think I want a window on this side, then we have to reframe that wall, right? That takes another day of work. So it just changes the whole dynamic. Exactly.
So what are some crazy stories you have? I'm sure you've been doing this, decades. What are some crazy stories you have about flipping houses? Like somebody thought, hey, I can go and handle this on my own, and then you ended up coming in and fixing everything.
Oh, goodness, yeah. I would get calls nationwide, especially after the TV show.
Yeah.
They would have some nightmare stories with contractors. They would never show up, or they would have the just really shoddy work, and they would call for advice, and I'd have to walk them through it.
So is that common? Why is there that stereotype then?
Oh, it is common. I would say, I might shoot myself in the foot here, but there's about 80% of the contractors out there are just not good.
Really?
Because what they do is you need to have a meticulous nature, right? And detailed nature. Like just with my truck, you could see it. It's like 13 years old, and everybody compliments me at least once a week because it's brand new. And that's what I teach my employees, right? How you do anything is how you do everything. So if your truck looks like that F-250 you're talking about, how are you going to trust them to build the house?
That's a good point.
Right? How do you handle yourself? How does your house look when you go home? Do you make your bed every morning? Right? That's a big tail sign you could ask your contractor.
Do you make your bed
every morning?
Yeah.
They say no, then you already know that the meticulousness is not there. It's just sad. I mean, because honestly, we do make good money. So a lot of the contractors that are out there do that just so that they can go and they think I'm going to be rich. Let me go build houses.
Yeah.
But a lot of them don't have the business aspect. They don't know how to manage the funds. They don't know how to manage their employees. They don't know how to deviate the money. They usually use money from one project to pay off another one, and they're always chasing their tail.
Yep.
That's a big.
Very similar to real estate, honestly. Like real estate agents. Like there are so many agents out there that are, going deal to deal, or they're treating it more like a hobby, less like a profession. They don't have the business perspective of, hey, I'm an independent contractor. I need to treat my clients like a business professional.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Here would be my assumption is that a general contractor, at least when they're first starting out, they like to work with their hands. They're builders, right?
Correct.
But then when you get to a certain level where you're a supervising contract, you have to develop more of those people skills, managing certain staff. And that's a different skill set than just going out and working with your hands and being able to kind of be independent to some degree and, just getting the job done, being a builder.
That's very true. You have to have a sales technique as well. So you got to be good with people.
Yeah.
That's just naturally the truth.
And that's tough. That's quite a big step from coming from where you're picking up nails and you're doing the work and you're building. You're a builder to becoming a contractor, a general contractor, which in some sense is kind of a very different job.
Yeah, well, in my position now, I just have to make sure that all the projects are going well, that we're all under budget, that everything is flowing smoothly, that all the clients are happy. I mean, it was a growth phase.
Yeah.
I didn't think I'd be able to do it, but one thing led to another, and we started getting bigger and bigger, and then you hire good employees, and then at some point you have to let go. Right? You got to trust the people that you hire to do the job well.
Can you, since you said you're from the Bay Area, you've done a lot of work in the Bay Area, can you compare the two markets?
Like Sacramento and Bay?
Yeah. As far as, building, remodeling, the housing market.
I think just in general, the fact that the Bay Area prices are absolutely absurd and they're crazy high, it's the same thing, right? You make more money down there. The ADUs are still the same. You use the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Sticks and 2x4s and sheetrock, but it's just a different market. Just a different market.
Location. I am curious. Yeah. I've never met, a contractor that had a lawyer. What's so architect, that makes sense. Engineer, that makes sense. What's the benefit to somebody going with you when you have an attorney on retainer?
Just the security. They just know that the contracts are done well and that they're protected against any damages of any sort.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, super cool.
Yeah, they have any questions, I mean, they could always ask, like, well, what is this legally? And I'll tell you, like, this is how it works, and this is what a mechanics lien is, and this is how it happens, and this is what you try to avoid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I always try to teach my clients and give them as much knowledge as possible, because down the road they might need something else, and we might not be available, right? So they might have to meet another contractor.
Got it. And so if is there any project, we've talked about big projects, like you're building commercial buildings, you're building ADUs, you're doing whole house remodels. For anybody listening, is there any project that's too small? Like you're like, hey, that isn't exactly something that we're doing right now.
Can you build my daughter a tree house?
Or a dog house?
Oh, let me tell you something about a tree house.
Let's say the tree
I'd love
house.
to hear it.
I fortunately live next door to my best friend, the attorney. And he came to me.
Wait a second, your best friend is your attorney.
Is the attorney.
That's
why
a good
he has
friend
an
to have.
attorney on retainer.
That's a good friend to
He's
have.
helping his friend with a job. Get a job.
And he trusted me so much, he allowed me to remodel his whole house. So you know that I do good work.
Absolutely.
So he came to me one day with a sketch, and he says, I want to build my daughter a treehouse, right? And I said, oh, okay, well, that sounds fun. Let's see what you have. So I looked at the tree in the backyard. It's a very, very large tree. He brought me this little drawing. I'm like, no, sir. I'm not building you a treehouse. I'm going to build you a house on a tree.
It's an ADU in a tree.
I built them a 300 square foot ADU in the tree, and the tree is going through the.
What?
It has a wraparound deck. It's incredible.
That is awesome.
It's incredible. It has a TV. We're installing a fireplace. It has lights. It's sheetrocked, insulated. Like it's a full on livable.
She's got
space.
the coolest treehouse in Sacramento.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I'll put up some pictures on Instagram because people like walk up there and they're like, "This is incredible," and the tree's physically going through the actual tree house.
That's sick. That's so cool.
It's just incredible.
Well, it was a pleasure having you on the show. If anybody wants to use RiseCon, you can always just Google RiseCon or reach out to us at 530-GET-MORE. Call or text 530-GET-MORE. We'll get you in contact with Domenique.
Yeah.
Domenique Montes. Yeah. Any last comments before we part ways?
No, I really appreciate the time. This was fun. We could do it again.
Let's do it again. All right. See ya.
All right.
So Emily needed to sell her dad's home in Rockland in order to pay for his assisted living facility. Johnny Jennings and the Tom Daves team with Made for More Realty were able to sell the home in less than 30 days, enabling Emily to have the needed funds in the desired timeline. They were also able to make the transition a smooth one for her dad. That's what happens when you work with the best. They sell homes 27% faster than other homes on the market. Expect more, get more with Johnny Jennings and the Tom Daves team with Made for More Realty, brokered by EXP. All you do is Google Made for More Realty today and get more for your home. License number 581837.
This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings, powered by EXP Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
So we've been talking with Dom Montes with RiseCon about ADUs, about flips, about commercial buildings. But there's you're kind of like the world's most interesting man. You've done a lot of different stuff, right? From racing, and you've been on HGTV.
Yes, we had a
So
full.
I'm curious. So you did a number of episodes on HGTV. How did you get that gig?
I was actually called upon because I was traveling the U.S. with a certain group of people, teaching in front of 400 students every weekend on how to flip houses.
Okay.
So HGTV found out that I was an actual contractor doing the flips, and I had my own financial backing to buy the properties. A lot of people, like investors, have the money, but then they outsource and try to find a contractor that can do the work.
Yep.
I was doing it all myself. I had employees, and I had two Home Depot shoppers that would follow me at every house that I would buy. And they would just follow me around, and I would tell them I need 7 doors, I need 5 windows, I need 42 sheets of sheetrock. And then 3 days later, it would show up on the property, and my guys were already on site and start doing that's how we did so many a year.
So they found out about you because of your teaching, and then they tapped you and said, "Hey, let's do a radio show." Or
What was the
television
pitch?
show?
What was the offer?
Yeah.
They sit you down at the table and say, "Here's our idea."
Well, it was a phone call, and I remember I was parked in front of a post office in the Bay Area. Like I was parked in front of the post office, and I got a phone call that said, "This is so and so from this production team, and we wanted to know if we can talk to Domenique." And I'm like, "Yeah, speaking." And they said, well, we had followed you around, and I think he said we were referred to you by somebody, and they said, would you like to do a TV show? And I kind of said, I think I'm a little busy, and I don't know if this is a scam or not, but I have too much work. So I hung up, and they called me the next day, and I allowed them to come onto one of our flips in the Bay Area, and that's where it started. The producer was really cool. His name was Avellino. I think he's still producing. And he came with a little camera and his assistant that said, just act natural, walk us through the house. And we did that. We walked through the house, and then he said, we'll get back to you in a couple weeks. Mm-hmm. So what they did is they took all these clips of different people that were going to be on the show, and they showed it to a study group. And apparently they really loved me. They really said that this guy's really good for TV.
Nice.
I mean, I've never done anything like that before. So they called back and said, you're approved. We start filming in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And then we just, and it was fun because we had a lot of houses already, but the filming kind of put a damper onto our progress because they wouldn't allow us to do any renovations to the houses because they wanted to film it all. So instead of having my crews there every day, we had to wait till the film crew can show up. And
wow.
So they usually delayed our projects by about 4 weeks.
So that's costing you money. Mm-hmm. Did you receive any compensation? Like, did they pay you in exchange for your time?
They would provide, like everybody thinks about, they would provide food for us when they were filming. And the pay was after we aired.
Sure.
We had a contract, right?
Right.
And the whole premise of the show, it was called Flip It to Win It. So it's whoever made the most amount of profit at the end of the flip. And whoever won the show, there was always 2 or 3 of us competing against each other. Whoever won would get the breakdown, right? There would be $4,000, $3,000, $2,000. So they would pay us per episode. But it wasn't about the money so much as the fact that, the truck was on the TV. I was the only one that had a labeled truck, so the company was nationwide and in Canada.
Wow. So was it a good experience? Would you recommend it then?
It was a great experience. It was like a bucket list per se.
Yeah.
It was really good. And we did get a lot of calls. Unfortunately, 60% of them were from across the United States, so we didn't get a lot of jobs out of it.
Yeah.
But it was a good thing to put in my resume.
That's incredible. And so, but again, World's Most Interesting Man, so you were doing HGTV. And then prior to that, you had another company, right? You were making, you were doing race cars?
My brother and I started a racing company that we manufactured, designed, and developed racing components for Hondas and Acuras.
Yeah.
That was way back in the days before the first Dom on Fast and the Furious came out.
You are the OG. The OG Dom.
Yeah.
That
was fun.
And then you had a motorcycle business, right?
We did. At some point after we sold our first company, my brother and I went into actually making real choppers. As still today, my brother is really, really good friends with Jesse James. Like Jesse James calls him all the time. He has it on a speed dial. Like they're really good friends.
The father and son guy? Oh no, that's the other guy.
That's Orange.
That's
something.
Orange County Choppers. Yeah. Jesse James, I know Jesse James. Yeah,
he's down in L.A.
Yeah,
that's cool.
So we did well with that company.
So it sounds like, okay, so you had the car company, sold it. You had OC company, or the chopper company, sold it. Like, who instilled this entrepreneurial spirit in you two, or is it just natively in you and your brother?
I would have to probably give my dad credit for all that because he's an entrepreneur all his life. So I guess we just picked it up from him. But these companies all stemmed because of my brother. He's a brilliant inventor. So I was more of the manager, per se, of the companies.
Okay.
And then I learned how to build motorcycles with your hands and build race cars because that was what we were doing, which made it a lot easier for me to build houses because the engineering to build a motorcycle is a lot more complicated than building a house.
Really?
Oh, yeah. You got to remember, you have someone's lives on your hands, right? So you got to make sure that the metal is properly welded, that the welds are proper, that the weight per square inch on a tube of metal is appropriately placed. Like it's a lot more complicated building a motorcycle than a house.
I would not have guessed.
Oh, yeah.
Got to give those guys more credit.
Yeah. Well, we would actually order all the metal, and it would come as tubing and flat sheet metal, and we would physically build every single component on that motorcycle. We didn't put them together. We actually handmade everyone.
Yep. That's super cool. And so you had these companies and then you sold them and now you have RiseCon. Like, what do you see on the horizon for RiseCon? Like, what are the next phases of development?
Fortunately for us right now is we are about to expand nationwide. We're about to franchise into 7 different states.
Wow.
And my goal is to slowly change the perception of a general contractor, right? Just not everybody is what we were talking on the previous section of how people think general contractors are, right?
Yeah. Bubba showing up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the ultimate goal, is to then expand into other markets and just raise the bar.
Correct.
For general contractors.
Yeah. I mean, if you can imagine, you have thousands of houses across the United States that you're building. Like that's going to be quite a very tough thing to do.
Yeah.
So I assume this is going to last another 10 to 15 years. And by that time, I hope I could retire.
There you go.
It's very stressful.
So that's a good question. So a lot of builders I've noticed recently here locally are now offering tons of incentives. We just got somebody in contract. They threw in solar. They dropped the price $20,000, and they're paying the real estate agent more than they typically would pay them. And so when I start seeing these things, I'm like, okay, what are they nervous about? Like, So what are you seeing in the market in terms of like new construction?
Fortunately for us, when people call us, they know that they're calling, like we were talking about cars earlier, they're calling the Bentleys of builders, because these are all our employees. Like everything's one-on-one. A lot of the contractors out there and the ADU builders out there, what they do is they bring in the sales and then they sub out to contractors that are willing to do the work. And that's where it gets complicated, right? Because now the contractor wants to make money and you bid out so much for a house, and it's just too much of a headache. I've already experienced that with 2 other builders. So for us, it's all in-house. Like we control every aspect of that, and I've been building houses myself by hand for decades.
Wow. So as you were talking about the next 10, 15 years, do you think there's gonna be a crash or a correction in the next couple of years, or do you think the market's just going to continue to be strong?
I think there might be a slight correction or a slight slowdown, just like every year. I mean, every 7 years, you know how that happens, right? It's cyclical.
Yeah.
So right now, I'm assuming it'll probably last another 3 years of being so inundated with everybody building ADUs. And only the best will stay on top, and then it'll slow down.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. Now that it's new, everybody's jumping into it, and so you have a lot of hacks, a lot of pretenders, a lot of people looking to make a quick buck.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, and I understand it, right? I was there 25 years ago,
sure.
But what I would just tell the clients is to make sure that you know who you're hiring. That's it. Just make sure you do your vetting, do some research, and make sure you're hiring the right contractor.
What's the coolest ADU? Like if you were like, hey man, I wish I could. Do you have any cool stories with ADUs?
There's one on our website that I wish I could live in. It's so awesome, man.
What makes it special?
It's the combination of all the finished materials. We did aluminum. We did an aluminum wall that was all glass with some really nice finished oak wood on the side, stucco, and it had a very contemporary look, which was really awesome.
I think that's really important for people to hear too, though. Is like if we're talking about putting family members or renting these out. I guess Matt was joking earlier. These aren't tough sheds. These are standalone homes.
Yeah, you go through the whole design process, and if you want a normal one, right, a normal box, then we could build it. It'll match to look exactly like your house, but we can get as creative as you want. Like we could build whatever you want. We'll just draw it with the architect and. Anything you could imagine, we can build.
With these ADUs, are you able to build like a garage underneath and a studio on top?
Yes.
Okay, it just has to meet the setbacks and all the requirements?
Correct. So if you have land, let's say just because of the area we're in, if you're in like Loomis or Granite Bay and you got 3 acres and your house is on a 1/4 acre and you have all that land, we could definitely build you even 2 of them with their own garage and driveway.
Got it. So my key takeaways are, 1, if you're wanting to do this, reach out to the JJ Mack team. They can help you get financing, so that way they can you can build the ADUs. And then second of all, just call RiseCon if you have a remodel, if you have a need for an ADU, if you're wanting to do a flip, maybe you have a property and like, hey, this would be a great flip, but I don't know how to manage the contractors, they can reach out to you.
Correct. Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's Dom Montes with RiseCon, or you can just call or text us at 530-GET-MORE, and we'll get you guys connected.
So Ben wanted to buy a new home, but he needed to sell his current home first. So Johnny Jennings negotiated with the builder to hold his new home until his current home was sold. Because of his reputation, the builder had confidence in Johnny and his team and held the property for their client. Johnny sold the home quickly and negotiated a rent back for Ben, giving him plenty of time to seamlessly move into his new home. That's what happens when you work with Made for More Realty. They sell homes 27% faster than other homes on the market and on average for a 3% higher purchase price. They've got a huge team to make your home selling process the easiest and most efficient possible. Expect more, get more with Johnny Jennings and the Tom Daves team with Made for More Realty, brokered by EXP. Just Google Made for More Realty today and get more for your home. License number 581837.
This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings, powered by EXP Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
Matt, I was recently reading this article, and it stopped me in my tracks. This cannot be true. And it said that 8.5% of homes are now in the U.S. This isn't regionally. This isn't in the state of California. Nationally, 8.5% of homes are now valued at over $1 million.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? Almost 1 in 10. 1 in 10 homes in the U.S. is almost valued at over $1 million.
That's incredible. Because I think about my grandpa. I think he bought his home for around $15,000 back in the 50s or 60s. $15,000.
Yep. And grandma was probably pissed because you're way overpaying for this house.
Right, exactly.
Yep. And so we hear that story a lot.
But then again, homes back in the day were not what they are now. It was a 3-bedroom, oftentimes a 1-bath, like maybe 1,200 square feet.
True.
Correct?
Yeah.
But then a massive backyard, like a half-acre backyard.
And you have a little park back there.
Right.
But it just gets me thinking, you're starting to hear now politicians are talking about it more, making affordability, housing affordability, a part of their platform. And I really am curious to see what happens in the next 30, maybe even 50 years in the U.S.
So just go back to clarify. You think the statistic that 1 in 10 homes now in America is over $1 million is a good thing or a bad thing?
If you're selling the homes, I think it's a good thing.
Which is what you do.
Yeah, but if you are the person who is looking to purchase that home, how is somebody who went to college and now has a little bit of college debt? Maybe they went responsibly, they have an engineering degree, they're paying down their debt. I'm not talking about somebody who got a degree in underwater basket weaving and is 6 figures in debt, right? But a productive member of society now has gone through the system. They went through school, they went through college, they got married, and now they're looking to take the next step at homeownership. What is that? How are they supposed to do that?
Right, because like we've talked about before, the American dream has always been, for now hundreds of years, to own land or own property or own your own home. That's the American dream. That's what everyone strives for. If one day I can own my own home, and what you're saying is it's becoming harder and harder to achieve that.
I think affordability is definitely becoming it's increasing the barrier to entry, and so maybe back in the day, maybe owning a home used to be a good investment, but now, in today's, owning your primary residence, I would not say is a good investment.
Why?
That doesn't appreciate the way the loans are structured, the way the costs, the taxes, the maintenance. If you are not necessarily money ahead if you're living in that home 7 to 10 years.
But your home appreciates.
Your home appreciates.
And instead of paying a landlord, you're putting that money back into the home.
But you have to stay in a long period of time. And so for most people, their first home, they're not staying in that for an extended period of time unless they buy that home and they never move out of it again. And then what are they doing? They're selling their home to move into a retirement home. So you at the end of the day, my opinion of an investment is something that puts money into your bank account. When you're living in a home, it's taking money out of your bank account. You're paying to be there. And so with that perspective of maybe your primary residence, now if you own rentals, that's a different conversation. But if your primary residence is not a good investment. So now we're talking about a lifestyle choice. And so why would somebody who's already under financial pressure be incentivized to go out and spend $1 million on, a home?
Right.
It's really just, it's become less of an investment and more of a lifestyle choice. Like, you live in a home, right?
Right.
How much money has that home made you?
Well, I've lived in it. I bought it when the market was down.
But how much?
It's appreciated.
Sure, but how much money has it put in your bank account?
Well, my home's. I'm not sure where you're going or what you're saying.
So my point is you bought a home. You bought a home at a great time, right? You have a lot.
I'm not charging my kids rent. It's
Yep.
not. I'm not.
I know.
Making any
I
money
get
off
it.
my
That's
own.
my point, though. You have a lot of equity.
Sure.
But then what's going to happen to that equity? You're going to roll it in. If you ever sell, you're going to roll it into another property.
Right.
And then you're going to continue to pay. And then when you buy that next property, you're paying primarily interest on that loan. You're not paying down the principal. You're paying the bank.
Sure.
And so now you're just rolling, you're just moving your money around, and then eventually maybe someday you'll sell it, and then you might realize the profit.
Right.
Maybe when you downsize.
Right.
Maybe, right?
Right.
Depending on how life plays out. So when talking about whether or not a home's an investment, that's my point. Like, there are so many people who buy the home, and then when you're not factoring in maintenance, you're not factoring in insurance,
Right.
you're not factoring in all the costs associated with being there.
Sure.
You're not factoring. So your typical.
So what you're saying is people should just rent.
So what I'm saying is I think in the next 30 to 50 years, the U.S. I think it's currently making a shift. People are building homes. Developers are building properties with no intent of putting them on the market. They are renting them out.
Because that's the way it is in Europe, in other parts of the country, is you don't have the same amount of people that own homes as you do in the U.S.
Yeah, homeownership's not what it is here. And so what I think is going to be happening, and I've been saying this now for a while, but now I'm on the radio and I have a little bit more of a platform. What I've been saying for a while is the U.S. is going to move away from homeownership being the American dream, and it's just going to be coming into you're going to rent. You're going to rent your car. You're going to rent everything. You rent your phone. Like, how many people own their phones?
That's true.
They're probably making a payment plan. You're just renting everything. And so in the next 30 to 50 years, homeownership is not going to be a thing. And so
what's your perspective on that?
I think that's bad. And the reason why is because politicians are often doing things to please the constituents. And so now if homeowners or people are wanting homeownership, and there's a lot of people that own homes, they're going to try to figure out a way to make that affordable. They're going to pass legislation to allow for new construction, new builds. They're going to ease up regulations on inner cities and like ADUs. Mm-hmm. They're working for the people. But if the people don't own the homes, then who are they working for? They're working for the lobbyists. They're working for their donors. And then that power gets consolidated from, instead of being 300 people in a community, now it's one corporation that owns the community. And so that consolidation of power is what I don't like. Not necessarily against corporations. I just don't like politicians now being incentivized to yield to corporations rather than listen to the people that put them in office.
Interesting.
So that's my big. I don't like the fact that.
So you're saying even with more development in the Northern California, Sacramento region, even with increased development and construction that we're seeing in different areas, you're saying that it's being bought up by corporations who are turning these properties into rentals.
Corporations, or even there are a lot of people that own rental properties that maybe they own one or two, but there are a ton of people who own 20, 30, 50, 1,000. And when I say people, at this point they're corporations.
Right.
You may have them in LLCs and stuff. And the reason why they're doing that is because it's a fantastic investment.
Sure.
Because now, again, to differentiate from your primary residence, they're renting them out and they're cash flowing. They are putting money in these corporations' bank accounts every single month. And they're getting the tax benefits from the depreciation, and they're getting the appreciation, and they're getting to write off all the repairs. There's a lot of incentives for corporations now to move into the safe asset class because people have to live somewhere.
Right.
And so one way to potentially slow that down with the corporate takeover is just to de-incentivize certain organizations, certain aspects of the tax code, so where maybe a mom and pop person can own a couple of rentals, or maybe an individual can own a home, and there's more benefits to them there, and there's less benefits to a BlackRock coming in and buying up thousands of homes.
And you mentioned this earlier. The bottom line is because you think that power in our country should be diversified, and owning your own home in some sense is power.
Absolutely.
Correct?
So in the state of California, I haven't run the numbers recently, but in the state of California, every single time a house sells, again, this is just average numbers, but on average, boom, $175,000 is pumped into the economy. $175,000 per home. That's across title, escrow, lenders, realtors, handymen, inspectors, all like pool companies, all of these solar companies. Like you can just go down the list. Roofers. There's so many different people that make money off of a real estate transaction in some form or fashion, or thereabout, like around it. Mm-hmm. And so, if you are now taking that away from the individual. So that's a lot of power. That's a lot of sway. That's a lot of economic influence that an individual has. And now if you've taken that economic influence out of the community and you've given it to a couple corporations, to me, that's the consolidation of power that I'm not in favor of. Interesting.
Wow. I would not have thought that you would bring that kind of perspective, but that's what makes you unique and real. I think that's what people appreciate, Johnny James.
Yeah, I'm real.
And you know, I mean, I'm not sure what your goal here is, but are you planning to run for office? Is that what you want to announce here today on this show, that you are running for office? Gavin Newsom obviously will be our next president, it looks like, in the next session.
Who knows?
And you'll be taking over for Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, I'll be the governor. Yeah, no, absolutely.
The governator?
No, but here's the thing. I have no interest in politics. That's a whole nother.
Because you work with a lot of people. Obviously, you work with a lot of families, and it can become frustrating when homes are unaffordable, right? Yeah. And so you're doing your best. You're doing the best you can do to make sure that families find, something that they can afford. But at a certain point, it becomes frustrating.
It becomes frustrating because I just see the writing on the wall. I see the pendulum swing in a certain direction. And unless the corporations are de-incentivized to invest in these asset classes, they're just going to continue to do it more and more and more and more. And now they're competing with, somebody who just got out of college and has debt and, a 2-year-old. So
there you go.
I'm not necessarily a fan of that. But we do have lots of down payment assistance programs. We have lots of first-time homeowner programs. We're here to help people. We're here to make that dream a reality if that's what you're wanting to do. But I think it's ridiculous that 1 in 10 homes is worth $1 million. So on that happy note, we'll see you next time.